Welcome everyone. My name's Sue Hurst and I'm a co-founder of CFO on Call, and which we started in 1991. And in that time, we've worked with thousands of businesses to improve their profit, cash flow, business value, and work-life satisfaction. So today I'm here with Kumbi Mutsariwa, who is one of our CFOs from Victoria. And Kumbi is going to share with us a couple of scenarios that he had worked out for a particular client, showing a couple of quite different outcomes. So we just wanted to share this information with you so that you can see the value of when you are planning to grow your business of actually looking at these scenarios. So without further ado, welcome Kumbi. It's great to see you today.
So thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to be here. So just to kick off from the introduction, I'm Kumbi. I'm a partner in CFO, Virtual CFO. So part of my job is helping clients and businesses with strategic planning. So we use financial modeling as a tool in decision making. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about how to use financial modeling as a tool for decision making. So the decision-making process is usually divided into three parts. We've got long-term, which is 5 years and beyond. And then we've got the medium-term, 3 to 5 years usually, and short-term decision-making, which is basically like day-to-day or up to 1 year ahead. So this is the agenda for today. We are going to understand what financial modeling is all about. And then we'll look at areas where we can apply it in the decision-making process. And then the last step, we're going to have a case study of a business, which was what was introduced by Sue in the initial introduction. So this case study is going to be an illustration of a cost of inaction. So in summary, cost of inaction is when you're looking at the opportunity cost of making the wrong decision in a nutshell. So we'll go into the details and explain that to you. So to kick off, we're going to define financial modeling. So like I've said, this is a tool that is used for making decision making. So we can use it for strategic planning purposes by looking at the future performance of a project or the business as a whole. And the relevance of financial modeling in business and decision making. Usually we have to look at businesses as a life cycle. So to start with, let's say the business started 5 years ago and we have made decisions in the past, so we can use financial modeling to evaluate key performance indicators, which is an assessment of the decisions that has been made in the past and look at areas of improvement in decision making. We also use financial modeling for risk management, where we do sensitivity analysis. For example, we say, what happens if our profit drops by 25%? What's the impact on profit margins and cash flow? Or if we have a good, period and our sales are up by 25%. And we do budgeting. We do three-way financial budgets, cash flow, income statement, and balance sheet. We can use financial modeling for that. And we also use it for company valuations, where we do business valuations using the financial statements. Financial modeling can be very effective for decision making when you are doing project management, so cost estimates and projecting profits for a specific project over the timeline of the project. Now we're going to go into the details of the case study that was introduced by Sue. So this is the background of the business that you're going to look at. So we've got a manufacturing business here that is currently turning over $10 million a year, and their operating profit is $1 million, and the margin is 10%. They have 20 people headcount, and now we're going to introduce the assumptions which are applied in the model. So when you're doing financial modeling, we work with assumptions. We can have so many different constraints being applied in the scenario. So for this specific example, we are going to have one constraint, but in most cases, businesses usually play with so many different constraints. So for this example, we're looking at this constraint being the headcount that was introduced. So the first scenario, we're looking at revenue growing from 10 mil to 15 million with a proportionate increase in overhead costs. The second scenario, we're looking at revenue growing from 10 to 15 million, whilst the overhead costs remain constant because we are going to introduce a new ERP, which is an enterprise resource planning system. So an ERP system integrates the core business processes. Like, for example, we're looking at finance department, HR, supply chain, and inventory management. So when you introduce an automated ERP, it can unify the whole process to avoid back and forth and makes the process well streamlined and more efficient. Hence the cost saving that we're talking about. So let's go through the financials for where we are, which is our starting point. Currently, 10 million turnover, 10% profit margin, and $1 million operating profit. So in this case, the assumption is the operating profit equals the operating cash flow. So this business is generating $1 million in operating cash flow. So now this business has a total overhead cost of $9 million because we are saying $10 million less $1 million profit. It means the balance is total expenses for the business. So a key takeaway point here is that our profit is always going to be total revenue less total costs. So here we are breaking down the income statement. We've got revenue, then we've got cost of goods sold. Our cost of goods sold is currently 60%. This gives us a gross profit margin of 40%. So our GP in dollar terms is $4 million. And our overhead costs are $3 million, which is 30% of total revenue. So this is the line that is going to change between scenario 1 and scenario 2. Now, our operating profit, like I've said before, is going to be our total revenue less total costs. So in the first scenario, our revenue is going to grow from 10 to 15 million, which is a 50% increase. And the scenario is that our costs are going to increase in proportionate to revenue. So we're going to have a 50% increase in overhead costs. So our overheads are going to be 4.5 million, which is 3 multiplied by 150% or multiplied by 1.5. Our head count is also going to increase from 20 to 30, which is 20 multiplied by 1.5. And our operating profit is going to be total revenue less total costs. So 15 million is the new revenue. Our cost of goods sold is 60% of revenue, which is $9 million, less 4.5 million in overheads. So we have operating profit of 1.5 million. So here's the conclusion of scenario 1. Total revenue $15 million, operating profit 1.5 million, and our operating profit margin stays at 10%. So despite the growth in revenue here, you can see that we've maintained the same margins. So the business has grown together with the costs. So now let's look into scenario number 2. Revenue grows from 10 to 15, same as the previous one, which is also the same ratio of 50%. Our overhead costs remain at 3 mil. So now the operating profit is going to be 15 million minus cost of goods sold of 9 minus overheads of 3, which gives us $3 million in operating profit. A summary of our results. So we have 15 million revenue, 3 million operating profit, and that margin is now double. It's now 3 million, which is 3 over 15, which is 20% compared to the previous one, where it was stuck at 10%. So here we can see the big change in our profit as well as our revenue numbers. So maintaining the same margin from the current to scenario 1, 10%. And there's a big jump now that we go into scenario 2 with the same revenue levels. We have doubled our margins from 10% to 20%, and we've also doubled our profit from 1.5 to $3 million because of the higher efficiency in the automated processes. So this is the summary of our results. Current state, this is this year's current numbers, the actuals. And when you are doing a scenario analysis, usually we do it at the budget period. We are looking at the year ahead, trying to see what's the best way to invest our capital to get the most out of it, like the best, highest return on investment. So our operating margins here, 10% current. Scenario 1, they are still at 10%. That's the status quo. We are growing the business. We've not sacrificed our margins, but we have not gained in terms of profitability. And when you look at scenario number 2 here, the same revenue levels, 15, 15, the same GP percentage of 40%, scenario 1 and 40%. We are gaining market share by growing the business from 10 million to 15 million. We have not sacrificed any of our margins by growing the market share. So it's a healthy industry that we are operating in. But now this is the impact of internal factors when you look at the operating profit here. Because these overheads are controllable factors, that's a decision that the business can make. And when you look at the external factors, their impact may be how flexible can we adjust our prices and costs in relation to what our competitors are doing in the market. Hence here, when you look at this 40%, it reflects that the industry is performing well because we can still grow and maintain a healthy margin in gross profit. But now internal decision-making, this is where the big change is between deciding to automate and deciding to, to remain where you are, like the status quo. The headcount has grown from 20 to 30. And here in scenario 2, you can see that it's still at 20 because most of the workload is being carried by the new ERP. So this is just an illustration dashboard of, to the right here, to the right-hand side, that's our percentages, which is our operating profit margins. We started off at $1 million in operating cash flow, and the cash flow goes up to 1.5 in the first year with the status quo scenario. And then with automation, it goes up to $3 million. And our revenue, 15 million, which is 50% up from the current year of 10 million. So yeah, that's the long and short of what we can use financial modeling for in terms of decision-making process. So I think in terms of making visual presentations, you don't need to go through the details when you're going through the scenario. So is there anything else you want to add to or any questions you want to ask?
Well, I think what this demonstrates really is it's all about, in terms of increasing the business value, about doing more with less, isn't it?
Yes.
It's great to increase your revenue, but if you're not ending up with a better bottom line or increasing your business value, you're just causing a lot of extra work and headaches for no real beneficial outcome, aren't you?
Yes. And I think the other thing to note here, is that when we are talking about relying on automated processes, we can't be 100% sure at this point that productivity is at its highest level.
Yeah.
So by introducing the ERP, we could probably at this point on initial implementation, we may be utilizing the system 60% of its capacity. So the headcount is still 20, but we can do more with that same process. Maybe revenue can go up to 25 million before we need additional headcount.
Yeah. And with the way AI is going, who knows what other automation and processes can be improved.
Because with these new ERPs coming in, there is a lot of automation that can go on. We've got bolt-on widgets and modules that can be added on.
Yep, absolutely.
To improve efficiency,
Yep, any business that is not considering this is going to get left behind, isn't it?
There is a huge wave coming in with automation these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay,
Now I think,
so tell us about the cost of inaction, Kumbi.
mhm. So now, let me just go back a slide. So this is the default position of the business. If they prepare their budget and they agree that they're going to grow the business from 10 to $15 million and they don't go with automation, they're going to achieve the same benchmark ratios, which is this ratio here, this 10% margin, and they will have $1.5 million in cash flow as well as operating profit. Now, when we talk about cost of inaction, we are talking about the opportunity cost of foregoing an alternative. So here, this is what the decision of sticking to the status quo is going to cost the business. So they are going to lose $1.5 million in operating profit because their operating profit is still going to be 1.5. Whereas in the alternative scenario number 2, it will go up to 1.5. Sorry, it will go up to $3 million. And they are foregoing 10% in operating profit margin. And same applies the 1.5 million in operating cash flow. And then when you look at the business value or, the book value of the business, 23% of the business is going to be extracted when we implement the new ERP. If they forego that automation process, they have to wait for another, I don't know, maybe 1, 2, 3 financial periods to increase the business value by another 23%. And they are going to inherit a host of difficulties in managing the business because of growth. So managing a big team is a big challenge. A lot of communication issues, performance related. In most cases, when you bring in an additional 50% of your headcount, no one knows exactly where they fit in the business, and it's going to cause a lot of conflict. So I think, so in a nutshell, I think it's a no-brainer here when you are making a presentation to the board, when you prepare a budget, they can see things in black and white that this is probably the best alternative for them, despite the cost of the implementation. I think the one key thing here is for decision-making processes, we need to look into the long term. So when we think about implementing a new ERP and we think it's going to cost us, let's say 150,000, and they would think about, where's the 150 going to come from today? But when you look at this over 2 years or 3 years, you are going to have an additional cash flow of 1.5 million in the first year, less the 150K for implementation. In the second financial year, there's no implementation cost.
Yep.
But if you go with the status quo, the additional headcount, the wages and salaries are going to be paid every year. So there's no real saving cash flows.
Yep. And ERP systems don't take holidays and sick days, do they?
Exactly. And you can use your skills metrics in the business to leverage on ERPs. Like, for example, when you've got Kumbi in finance, who has some knowledge of sales, for example.
Yeah.
If one of your sales team is not here, you can shift that person or individual to go and sit in the sales department, use the ERP to keep the business afloat so that you don't lose sales and you don't lose margin. Same applies with production staff, those guys who can help in any area in the business. So you can do cross-training.
Yep. Yep. And it creates a situation where people can get access to systems from anywhere, can't they? Including
remote.
the business owner.
Yeah, that's a classical example for us. So we are virtual CFOs. Right now, we're actually working on a model together, and we've got our client in WA. I'm here in Victoria. You're there in New South Wales. So this is the automation process in play. We can help clients from anywhere in Australia and New Zealand by just using, technology.
And I suppose the other factor here too that we haven't factored into the numbers is the big improvement in the business valuation because of the ERP and systemization. So many businesses are valued on a multiple of their operational profit. And so, the profit here has gone up, and probably the multiple would go up by quite a bit as well. So
Yes,
you could probably get an even better business valuation out of this.
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there are so many factors that you've just introduced there. So by looking at it from a business valuation point of view, one other key area is that, when you're looking at your SOPs and processes, like the business processes being documented. So if you have an ERP in place, you can be able to work off the tools, take your hands off the tools, and it's easier to get someone new on board.
Yeah.
So as owners of the business, you spend less time trying to figure things out. You spend more time growing the business and not actually meddling with the tools.
Yeah, that's a really important one, isn't it? Getting business owners off the tools. And I think the other interesting thought is, if you don't do this systemization and install an ERP system, effectively, if you do want to get out of your business, and even if you just want to spend less time there,
Yeah.
apart from maybe selling the business, the issue with reliance on a business owner of a business is that
Key stuff for key personnel. Yeah.
you can't sell your head.
Okay.
You've
And it's
really
very
got to
difficult
have,
to put a value to an individual when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
selling a business. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, I think that's a really good indication, isn't it, of the value of implementing systems, but more importantly, modeling it out so you can see in black and white, and you can show that to, as you said, a board or potential investors or a lender if you need to borrow money for the installation of the system. So
Yes.
it's as you say, an absolute no-brainer. All right, wonderful. Thank you, Kumi, for sharing that with us.
So
So,
yeah, that's good.
if you just want to put it on the last slide. So, what we've talked about there today is really just at a high level, isn't it? The potential outcomes. So, if you want to read a little bit more detail about financial modelling as a tool for decision making, click in the link below. You can go and download this ebook. And also, if you want to have a chat with Kumbi, I think you can see quite clearly that Kumbi's got a really good grasp of these types of situations and can fairly quickly work out for you, what is the best, most profitable, and most valuable course of action. So if you'd like to have a brief chat with Kumbi, or even for an hour, he'll be happy to, I'm sure, have a chat with you, talk through your ideas, and help you to work out the best way forward. So thank you, Kumbi, for sharing that with us. That's really fantastic information, and I hope that the audience have enjoyed hearing about that today.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, that was a pleasure.
Thanks, Kumbi. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Okay. Bye.